Hello, everyone. I'm John Schuller, here to tell you what we all know and maybe sometimes don't want to admit. We are all getting older. Yes, even me. But that's not a bad thing because we still have many good years left with family and friends. And on this special program, find out how, with the proper planning, with the best team in Western New York, you can continue to live your best life. Welcome to the program. The website for our guests today, pbelderlaw.com, outlines important points that you need to know. That a proper plan for aging goes beyond a will and drafting legal documents. The team at Pfalzgraf, Beinhauer, Greer, Harris, Schuller, LLP, PB Elder Law, has the expertise to help you plan for the future, including long-term care and matters following death, and an all-encompassing plan that ensures your wishes are fulfilled, your assets are protected, and that your family is prepared. So whether it's legal, financial, or healthcare considerations, are your legal documents in order? Whether it's estate planning, long-term care planning, Medicare, Medicaid, estate administration, probate, matrimonial, family law, so much, or any other concern, Western New York's trusted elder law firm, Pfalzgraf Beinhauer, is dedicated to helping you and your family prepare for the future. So you can focus on what's important right now, that's living your best life. So joining us for the next half hour are Gene E. Harris, Esquire. Gene brings a deep knowledge of elder law, asset protection, Medicaid planning, and applications in estate planning, and trusts to her practice at Pfalzgraf, Beinhauer, Greer, Harris, Schuller, LLP. Gene is a regular speaker in the areas of Medicaid and elder law, the use of trusts for asset protection and estate planning. Gene dedicates her practice to ensuring that clients take advantage of all legal mechanisms to preserve assets while ensuring that they receive the care they need at home, assisted living, or in skilled nursing. Gene graduated magna cum laude from the State University of New York at Buffalo Law School and cum laude from the University at Buffalo with a BA in psychology. Gene is a member of the Erie County Bar Association, the New York State Bar Association, and the Western New York Women's Bar Association. She is admitted to practice in New York State and in the United States Federal Court for the Western District of New York. Daniel J. Schuller, or otherwise known as Dan, great guy. He's a graduate of SUNY Buffalo School of Law, cum laude, and received his Bachelor of Science from Canisius College. Dan's practice is focused on elder law and estate planning, trusts, guardianships, and Medicaid planning and applications. He currently serves on the Professional Advisory Committee for the Community Foundation for Greater Buffalo. He is also a proud member of various professional organizations. Dan was featured in Art Voice's 2015 Buffalo's Finest Profile series, a series highlighting Buffalo professionals who demonstrate continued excellence in law, healthcare, education, and technology, and business for 2015. Dan also was nominated as a super lawyer in the Rising Star each year from 2018 to 2025. He has also received the AVO Client's Choice Award each year from 2015 to 2020. Wow, these bios, this would take the whole show just talking about your great years of service. Thank you and welcome to the show.
They make our mothers really proud.
Yeah, they
true.
Sure do. Well, you worked hard, Gene, you know, and we were talking before the show about the need for this kind of a program, particularly for our audience here on WBBZ, to talk about all of the things that we just mentioned in that introduction. It seems to be very daunting at the onset, but how do you relate to the client that's going to reach out to you who says, I need to get my affairs in order? What's the first thing they should do?
So, I mean, you're absolutely right. It can seem daunting, and it is sometimes a difficult thing for people to approach and begin to speak about. Sometimes they're speaking about themselves, sometimes they're speaking about a loved one, and it can be difficult. So we kind of structure our approach in a couple of ways. Sort of practically, what people will typically do is they'll contact us over the phone. We make an appointment for a consultation. The individual comes in. With them, they're bringing a questionnaire that we've provided to them that has various questions concerning demographic information, their family structure, where they live, that sort of a thing, some health information. Also is going to have some questions concerning their assets and financial information. So once we take that in and we have those sort of facts in front of us, the client can come in and sit down and we talk about what is it that their concerns are, what brings them in on that day, what are their family's concerns, and really from there we're able to develop a strategy to put in place to make sure that we're accomplishing their individual goals. One of the things that we've noticed over time is that the goals of each individual are as varied as those individuals, right? One person may be very concerned about where they're going to live and making sure that they must live at home. Another person might be desirous of defraying the costs of assisted living. There's Obviously, sometimes there is a concern about a need for skilled nursing placement, and we all know the exorbitant cost that that can be. So when they're coming into our office, really what we're trying to do is ascertain the current situation and the care need, the current family situation, what we need to get done, and what are the priorities of the client. So at the end of that initial consultation, we're typically able to have a plan, at least the structure, the framework for a plan. You know, we know that things change. We know life has its ups and downs, but we're able to have the structure of a plan to move forward with the client.
Well, and you take the stress out of it, I would think too, the fact that people can come to you and you're such vetted professionals, that's very important.
So yeah, I mean, we certainly try. And here's the other thing is, we're human beings too, with our own families, right? And we've been through much of these things personally. So we certainly know the professional side of it. We've spent our entire professional careers focused on these specific concerns for clients. But we're certainly not insensitive to the emotional impact in terms of relating to people. We've done it in our own families, and we're doing it every day. So it can be a really taxing thing intellectually. It can be a really taxing thing emotionally. And I think certainly we're sensitive to that.
Dan, we talked too about the fact that families sometimes come in, or the senior comes in themselves, or the children of the senior. There's all of these different dynamics. And even the financial advisor might be asked to join in as well, because the finances are obviously a very important part of estate planning, and particularly when it comes to if the families need to have advanced medical care or nursing home care. So talk to us about that dynamic on the financial side a little bit more.
Sure. So to Jean's point, the client comes in initially with a completed questionnaire, and really what that's designed to do is to prompt the client to go out and actively gather up all of their current financial statements. Many clients may have assets that they have from many years ago that they don't look at but have been growing in the background. So in order for our firm to be able to give you accurate advice to your specific situation, we need to know what the finances are. A lot of times that meeting is collaborative. It includes the financial advisor. It includes the CPA. Maybe they have other attorneys involved because they own a business. So it is a collaborative project so that we make sure as the estate planning attorneys that we have all the information needed to guide the client based upon what their objectives and needs are.
We should talk about what that consultation is like. There's certainly a fee involved. But that fee and the work that your firm does could save your clients exponentially incredible amounts of money, whether it be on the estate planning side or on the fees that are involved when it comes to long-term care. So talk to us about that.
Sure. So, I mean, the initial consultation does come with a fee. It's a nominal fee. Generally, a consultation lasts about 90 minutes. So this is not a sit down with us and for us to just tell you how the law works. I don't think the client gets much out of that. What this is really designed to do is, A, make sure you do, in fact, understand how the law works, because I think 90% of the clients that come in have a misconception about how things really work as compared to how the legal world actually is. And then we go through the consultation. Again, we're identifying what the client needs, their financial situation. And then to Jean's point, as she mentioned earlier, we're actually developing a plan for the client, the framework of a plan, so that at the end of that meeting, the client, whether they retain us or not, now has an understanding of, hey, this is our advice to you based upon what your goals and objectives are. This is the framework of the plan. So the client at that point decides, okay, yeah, I want to go forward with this, and we move forward. Or the client can go home, talk to their advisors, CPAs, loved ones, and say, hey, this is what we talked about, as compared to us just telling you what the law says. Again, I don't think you really get any benefit out of that.
Jean, is there a certain age, like I've often shared my age on TV, I'm 63. Is that a trigger age when people get into that 63, 64, 65? Is there a time that they should come to see you? And should families do this, as Dan had mentioned? Should everybody do it together so that there's commonality among?
Yeah, I mean, I think you certainly have to take someone's age into consideration when you're talking about estate planning, but every person is so unique, and we have clients living well into their 90s who are driving themselves to our office. So age is not the only indicator, right, of when something is necessary. Really, at any time a person becomes an adult, they should begin to have the basic estate planning documents talking about, a last will and testament, a power of attorney, a living will, healthcare proxy. My child, and I'm going to say my adult child who's 19 years old, has those documents at this point because he was headed out of state for school. And if I want to make decisions for him while he's gone, which we all know I'm going to have to, I need to have the legal ability to do that. Without that document, even though he's at such a young age, I would not have the ability to do that. So in some respects, certainly estate planning needs to begin at the moment of adulthood. When we're talking about asset preservation or protection and the need for skilled nursing, certainly that tends to happen, I would say, around retirement age or a little bit maybe even thereafter, okay? But again, some people are working well into their 70s or even later. So you want to be ahead of this sort of a thing.
Yeah.
The other thing I would caution people against in terms of talking with their families about it, certainly be as open as you feel inclined to regarding your finances and your wishes with your family, but be careful who you listen to. Because just like you are a unique individual, your legal plan should be very unique for you. It's not a cookie cutter thing. There are lots of nuances in the law that we've spent decades learning and making sure that we're applying those particular exemptions to individuals so that we can maximize the asset protection and the strategies that are available to them. And so you've got to be careful because what your cousin's neighbor may tell you because something happened to them may not be applicable to you.
We have about 3 minutes left in this first segment. Time's going by quickly. You mentioned to get your affairs in order, because if you don't, you could get caught up in probate and all kinds of legal entanglements somewhere down the line for the families. But let's talk about that 5-year plan, or 5-year window. Talk to us about what that means when it comes to asset protection.
Yeah, so what we're talking about there is Medicaid coverage for skilled nursing, which is different from Medicaid for just health insurance for individuals who are eligible. This is related to nursing home coverage. So there's only 3 ways nursing homes get paid. Privately, currently that's about $15,000 to $21,000 a month. So most people are not privately paying. Long-term care insurance, which most people don't have. Medicaid is therefore the most popular payor option. When applying for Medicaid, there's a 5-year look back. It's not 3 years, it's not 7 years, it's 5 years. And essentially what's happening is the Department of Social Services is doing a forensic accounting of your 5-year history to see if you've been giving away assets. If you've given away things at 5 years and a day, they can't do anything about that. So when we start talking about asset protection with clients, 65 to 75 is when most people are coming to see us to start that process because they're retired, they have a better understanding of what the next chapter of life looks like. The discussion at that point is getting things out of their name. Most oftentimes we're starting with a house and then we're looking at things beyond that. If the asset is put either into an irrevocable trust or transferred to a child or a loved one and 5 years passes, it's unavailable to pay for care for Medicaid purposes. So that's what we're talking about with a 5-year window.
Right, so that all of these assets that people have built up all their lives, excuse me, are not thrown away or given to the state or given to the government. So a lot to talk about. We're going to continue our conversation with Jean and Dan from PB Elder Law when we come back after this short break.
Planning for the future goes far beyond retirement. PB Elder Law of Western New York can help you protect your assets for your loved ones and still benefit from Medicaid coverage for in-home or nursing home care. Visit pbelderlaw.com. When Mom went into a nursing home, PB Elder Law saved our parents' house, retirement accounts, and other assets, and they completed Mom's application for nursing home Medicaid. If you find yourself or a loved one entering a nursing home, visit pbelderlaw.com.
Welcome back to our discussion with Jean Harris and Dan Schuller, distinguished attorneys and partners with PB Elder Law, on how their firm can help us live our best life as we get older. And we talked during the break, Dan and Jean, about the crisis. There could be a crisis, everybody's rolling along, everybody's healthy, everybody's happy, family seems to be doing well, and then something happens to a parent or maybe even somebody else in the family. But what other roles would you define as crisis? I'm thinking like accidents or medical issues, but there could be a crisis legally or an unexpected death. How would you define crisis?
So when we're talking about a crisis plan, what we're typically talking about is something that ends up with an individual's need for long-term skilled nursing. So, a nursing home, right? Typically what will happen, there'll be some sort of a medical event, which a person will end up going to the hospital. They'll then be discharged to rehabilitation. Rehabilitation is typically in the same facility that a person will remain for skilled nursing if it's determined that they require 24-hour skilled nursing care. And once the Medicare coverage has cut off, that's when we start looking for Medicaid coverage, and we have those significant income and resource limitations. So essentially, Medicaid will come in and they will cover the cost of your care as long as you don't have the ability to cover it for yourself. So once you're under the required income and resource limitations, that's when they do the 5-year look back that Dan was talking about. This is really the moment of crisis, and it's often the moment where clients are maybe given not the best advice, or even sometimes, dare I say, tricked into thinking that they must use assets that we would otherwise be able to preserve for them. So it's a crisis legally because we don't have those 5 years, right? But in fact, even though we don't have the 5 years, there are strategies that we can employ and do employ on a regular basis to make sure that we can preserve a significant portion of those assets, typically in the neighborhood of 50 to 60%. So it's this sort of idea that's out there that, well, I don't have 5 years, so there's nothing I can do, that we want to do everything we can to get the word out that that's just simply not true. Sometimes it's possible, depending on the way the assets are held, that we can even preserve 100%. Depending on how the assets are held, or depending on the family situation, the players involved, we're able to do a lot. So we really want that to get out there.
Which is what PB Elder Law does, because you are the bona fide professionals. Dan, talk to us a little bit about the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. I know a lot of our viewers understand that, but for those who don't, explain that.
Yeah, so when you go to the hospital, your underlying health insurance covers, or Medicare if that's your primary insurer. When you are discharged from the hospital after a medical event and you go to rehab, that's where Medicare is your primary coverage. Medicare covers the first 20 days of rehab without a copay, and potentially days 21 up to a maximum of 100 with a copay. There's also Medicare coverage for prescription drug plans, which are very popular kind of supplements that are tied in with your primary Medicare. But Medicare has nothing to do with nursing home coverage, as Jean alluded to. Medicaid is your coverer if you qualify for Medicare, or for nursing home coverage, you're looking for Medicaid. And again, to the point about the crisis planning, whether we have assets that we are successfully getting by 5 years, so a client comes in, they get their house by 5 years, they then need skilled nursing, it's still possible that they have more resources than they're allowed to have. So crisis planning could mean they've done no planning at all, and they have too much money to qualify, and then they're coming to see someone like us, and we can implement a plan to save about half of the assets. Or maybe they've successfully done the 5-year plan, but they still have too much to qualify. So really the moral of the story, and what we tell kids of clients predominantly, is if there's a medical event after the loved one is secure, care is being provided, call us, because there's all sorts of people that are going to be coming to you at that point about Medicaid and nursing home coverage. And oftentimes, if you don't call us or you come to us too late, the horror story Jean and I can tell you is we see a client has spent through, for example, maybe a couple $100,000 of IRA money, which is really protected and doesn't have to be spent. But because they're getting the wrong advice, and because it's something they've never dealt with before, they just assume the advice they're getting is correct. So really, even if it's just a consult to say, for us to look at it and say, nope, you don't need us, you're okay, I would defer that the clients do that rather than just going out and getting advice from someone claiming to know how to do Medicaid applications, and then they've spent significantly more than they had to, because to this crisis plan we keep talking about, only a lawyer can implement a crisis plan. A non-lawyer agency cannot do the kind of crisis planning that we are talking about.
Well, and that's important to note. And we're going to have that phone number in just a little bit up on the screen. So get your pen and paper ready, and an email that you can make from the website. And Jean, I don't think there's anything more evil than some entity taking advantage of seniors who are vulnerable, whether it be in the assets that they've had, where they end up being pilfered, or just in giving them bad advice, which is why you need the skill set of what PB Elder Law has to offer.
I could not agree more. So I can tell you this sort of little anecdote here, but with my own family member who was going through this process and going into a nursing facility, I was with my sister at the time, I was with my mom at the time, my brother was there, and we were listening sort of to the advice that this particular facility was giving us concerning where my family member would go for care and what we were permitted to do, how it would be paid for, and all of those things. And I just kind of held myself back, and I didn't really, say who I was, what I did for a living, and that kind of thing. I wish I had recorded it, because it would be astounding to people to learn what they were suggesting that we should do, because it was not only wrong, but it was wrong in favor of them and not in favor of my family member. And it's really, I'm not always sure that it's done out of malice, but even if it's done out of ignorance, or maybe it's done out of laziness sometimes, it's not okay, right? And there are some things, some assets that are protected by law. And the laws are there for a reason, right? We're not here to hide money from anyone. We're not doing anything that we shouldn't be doing. We're taking advantage of the laws that are there for a specific reason, to protect us, to protect the community spouse, to protect the individual who is in the facility, and protect everything that these individuals have worked their entire lives for. I do think it's really important for us to be good stewards of our assets while making sure that we're providing the best possible care for our family members. And that's typically the desire of my clients and their kids. It's unusual that we'll get somebody in the office that says, hey, I don't really care what kind of care mom or dad is getting, just give me all the money. But it does sometimes seem like there are third parties out there where their motivation really is to just get money at the cost of what's best for our clients.
Right, and I'm sure I have in my own life, and you have in your practice, where you've seen where money can become a great dividing line among families. It's unfortunate sometimes. Dan, one of the things that I think we should talk about again is the fact that if you're thinking about doing this, you probably should do it, meaning call for a consultation. And even if you're in a situation where you think you have everything in order, even with another individual or another law firm, maybe you need to get a second opinion, I would think,
Right,
to make sure things are right. So one of the things that I've noticed in my life doing television, we talk about senior issues when it's holiday time or birthdays or family events, and the children, it reignite their relationship with their parents again. They see changes medically, emotionally, mentally, physically. Is that a good barometer as to when maybe the child should say, hey, mom, hey, dad, hey, uncle, hey, aunt, let's go and see PB Elder Law?
right. So yes, to all of that. There's certain triggers in life where I think you should be reviewing existing documents automatically. Deaths, disabilities, divorces, those are kind of the automatic triggers where you should be reviewing your documents.
And have those documents in a safe place.
Correct.
Where anybody, and be, I would think, forthcoming with other family members to say, this is where it is, just in case.
Or minimally, this is who my lawyer is. If something ever happens to me, this is who you should call.
Yeah.
But just because another attorney did the documents, we review and revise documents all the time, as basic as a power of attorney, because it doesn't include some of the things you need to do this crisis planning we keep talking about. So having it reviewed by professionals whose focus is entirely on the elder law and estate planning side is probably always a smart move. The reality is people don't like going to see lawyers. We understand that, but I think,
How can they not want to come see Gene and Dan?
I think one of the things, though, you asked us earlier is, what do you hear? And I think a lot of times there's a notion that, this stuff is not, it's deep. People don't like to talk about it. But if there was one consistent thing I think you would have any of the attorneys in our office say is after we've met with clients, developed a plan and implemented it, more times than not, what you're hearing from those seniors is, I feel better. I feel better that it's done. I feel better that we have a plan in place. It's no longer in limbo. So we understand that there is an initial pressure that kind of comes with going to see a lawyer and talking about these types of topics. But our goal, we try to keep it light. We try to tell you what you need so that you can make informed decisions. We're not here to push anything on you. It's, hey, this is what our suggestions are. This is what we think makes sense. And again, I think if you talk to our clients, most of them will tell you, they come out saying, oh, I feel better.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's done.
Well, when people go to your website, pbelderlaw.com, they see some of those stories from some of your clients, which is terrific to see.
You can also see some of the comments if you went to Google. You can see some of the reviews and comments, and I think that's a pretty nice list going right now of people who, the way they feel when they leave, and it's a happy feeling, right?
It's nice that people give a good review.
I love that. I think it's wonderful. I try to do it too.
Should a doctor or a medical professional be a part of this consultation? We talked about financial advisors, but is there a reason for that?
So it depends on what someone's coming in for. So I would say for sure it's unusual to have a doctor in the room. It's not unusual for us to take a look at some medical records. We do that occasionally. And depending with the issue and what's being presented, it's not typically that the doctor is having input with us, but we are frequently called on to provide the documents that we prepare to physicians or to hospitals or other care providers so that they know that the appropriate agents have been appointed and that they're allowed to speak with the family. So just like kind of, as I mentioned with the power of attorney, if you don't have that document, somebody can't make legal decisions or financial decisions for you. If you don't have an appropriate living will and healthcare proxy, there's no one who is able to make medical decisions or speak with your physicians. So it's often the fact that we are providing information to them as opposed to the other way around.
So will, healthcare proxy, what's another piece?
Living will,
Living will.
power of attorney. Those are the very basics.
Got to have those. Note to self, got to have those. Tell us about our friend Dawn Mishka, who's over at PB Elder Law. She's our friend from Polka Buzz. I know that she has a great clientele, and you have a great team.
Dawn Mishka is an irreplaceable part of our team, and we love her so much. And if you're interested, you could certainly go onto our Facebook page and take a look at her very hilarious Halloween costume or her very hilarious Polka Buzz participation. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy, but it's so wonderful. It's so fun.
Well, can we invite you to Polka Buzz next time?
I think Dawn invites us every time it comes on. If there's a Polish-related event, Dawn is extending the invite. I know she's heavily involved, and she's always showing us videos, and I know she has a great time with it.
She speaks to us in Polish.
Yeah,
She sang to me yesterday in Polish. Yeah.
as long as she doesn't break out the Krupnik, that's all.
No comment.
So I'm going to give some information. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, you've met our team here, Gene and Dan, and you can see how comfortable and really inviting it is just to have you here on set, let alone go to your office. So I would think that if you're intimidated about going, you shouldn't be. So let's give some information on how you can connect with the team at PB Elder Law. Now, I know you have offices at 455 Cayuga, which is right by the airport,
Correct.
kind of right around the corner. Then you can walk in, Suite 600, right? Yep. So if you feel inclined, you can go, or you can give them a call. And you have locations now in Lockport, Niagara County.
Yep.
And where's the new one coming?
East Aurora will be in East Aurora effective in January.
So East Aurora, Lockport, and Cheektowaga, basically, Cayuga Road. All right, so attorneys Gene Harris and Dan Schuller, partners at PB Elder Law, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much.
It's important information for seniors and those who have older parents and family members. And we thank you for your team to live your best life. Now, here's the information. If you would like to reach out to Gene, Dan, and the team at PB Elder Law, and Dawn, write down this number. Told you to get your pen and paper. I hope you did. Here it is, 716-204-1055. It's 716-204-1055. I should ask Gene and Dan, do you have 24-hour service? Is somebody going to answer that phone?
So you certainly can call and leave a message. We're pretty on top of it. We don't let too long go by without you. It's not a 3 a.m. type of thing, but if you leave a message, you can pretty be sure that somebody's going to give you a call the next day.
Good. That's
And if it's after hours, there's email inboxes online. The attorneys are generally always checking their emails, so fire an email, you'll probably get a response.
And that's where we go to the website, pbelderlaw.com, pbelderlaw.com. So you can find out about all the background on the locations that we talked about and all of the services that PB Elder Law has to offer. So we thank you for living your best life right here with us on WBBZ TV. I'm John DeSciullo. Thanks for watching and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.